What's up, Cerebral Football fans? My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. All right, y'all, welcome back. Happy Friday to everybody out there. It's time to get into the deeper analytics, some of the things that may or may not haunt us come Sunday afternoon when it comes to this football game, because I'm here to talk about what I think is one of the better ways of evaluating your opponents. This is something I call the money down personally. And I think there's a few different ways to evaluate the way that your opponent is playing on the season. One of them, when I'm trying to look at a quarterback, guys, I want to know what you're doing versus pressure. Pressure breaks. You get what I'm saying? Pressure will break a folk. However, the other thing that I want to look at, and what we're going to look at today, I want to look at your third down production. I want to know what you do on third down. I want to know a little bit about your offense. I want to learn a lot of pertinent details about what you're doing. Some of the things that you can learn by knowing exactly how to filter these things when it comes to third down, you can learn simple things such as knowing basically, are they staying ahead of the sticks, right? I can go look and see what your average yards to go are on third down when you pass the ball. You can say, well, that's not the complete picture because they could just be really good at running the ball and keeping, they put themselves in that kind of third down situation. Well, that'll be reflected in your passing attempts, wouldn't it? So there's a lot of different ways of like looking and judging an offense. I love looking at third down. I love filtering to see if you're staying ahead of the sticks. I want to see what your passing rating looks like when you're facing those third downs and longs. I want to see things such as, like, I used to love it when you had Football Outsiders. Football Outsiders closed, but when Football Outsiders was up, they had something called Alex, which was air less than expected on third down. So it told you how close they were throwing the ball to the sticks. Well, now you got to get a little bit more creative to kind of find that type of information, which it's going to be presented today. So basically what we're going to talk about is I'm going to talk about our third down defense, our red zone defense, and I'm going to talk about our opponent, which is Zach Wilson. I'm going to tell you how his target shares have shaped out and the way he's played on third down. So let's get to it. I'm going to talk about season totals, and then I'll get into his last game. Zach Wilson on the season totals. I told you there's a few things I like to pay attention to from Next Gen Stats that I think gives you a fair and balanced kind of picture of the quarterback. The first thing is I want to know your time to throw. Okay. It's not necessarily a bad thing just because you try to get the ball out of your hands, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing to try to get the ball out of your hands fast. It's not necessarily a bad thing to try to hold the ball longer if you're trying to push it vertically. But what you do want to look for is you want to look for quarterbacks that are holding the ball for an incredibly long amount of time with really bad offensive line play, and they're not pushing the ball down the field. That's an underlying problem, right? Well, Zach Wilson has a 3.05 time to throw on the season, which ranked 31st out of 34 quarterbacks that they have ranked here. So right from the jump, guys, that's a bit of a problem here because I can tell you they don't push the ball vertically. And to be real with you, they're not very good on the offensive line. Just going to call spade a spade here. That's a recipe for disaster. And I do think as we get into what they did last game, you can see that they've identified that and they're trying to move towards a different philosophy with this. Aggressive rating, right? This can tell me a lot of things like, number one, are you getting separation? Are your receivers getting separation? But number two, is that dude a dog out there behind center? Is that dude a dog that's throwing the football on third down, right? Because if I'm throwing high percentages into aggression, they call 1 yard of separation or less. If I'm throwing into that, but I'm getting a lot of turnovers, my completion rate's low, all that kind of stuff, then we got an underlying problem here, right? On this season, Zach Wilson has a 17.4 aggression rating, meaning 17.4% of his passes are done when there's a defender within 1 yard of the football. That ranks about fifth in terms of the highest percentages out of 34. So he will throw the ball pretty close to defenders, to be real. Air yards to the sticks. Air yards to the sticks is kind of like when I talked about earlier about Alex, except for it's allocated across all downs. It's not specific to just third down. It's just basically any down on average. Where's your ball being placed to where the sticks are, the first down marker is, right? This can be pretty complex, guys. I mean, you could be facing 1st and 15. You could be facing 3rd and 30. You could be facing 2nd and 17. You could be facing 3rd and 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference here, but when you take the numbers in totality, you get a better picture of what's going on here. Negative 1.7 air yards to the sticks, which is the 26th lowest out of 34 quarterbacks. Check down Charlie. Check down Charlie is what I can say here. All right. Let me get into, that's the season totals. Let's look at this picture a little broader, and let's talk about the totals from last week, right? It's a week-to-week league. You can't make the mistake of thinking that what they did in week 1 and week 2 is what they're going to look like in week 6. So I want to see what happened in terms of week 5. They played a Kansas City team that I think is probably not, they're still finding themselves too, to be quite honest. Kansas City is, especially from an offensive perspective. But Zach Wilson kind of made a comeback in that game. Like Zach Wilson kind of kept them in there. The defense did, and then Zach Wilson got a little momentum in that game. So in that game, Zach Wilson had a 2.76 time to throw. So we're talking about a 3.05 from the average to a 2.76 in this last, competition, which big difference going from 31st to 13th. He was 31 out of 34 quarterbacks. And in this one, he was 13 out of 34 quarterbacks. So that's a big, big difference there in terms of what's going on. Aggression rating, he's still throwing the ball into some pretty tight windows, guys. 15.4% aggression rating, which was 11th out of 34, which is a lot better than what we've seen previously. But 17.4% is what his overall average is, which is the 5th highest. From the 5th highest to the 11th highest, it's a little tick downwards, right? 1.7 air yards to the sticks on the season average. In this game, negative 2.2 air yards to the sticks, which was 29th out of 34th. To me, this has all the telltale markers of a get the ball out of your hands, right? Don't hold it. Now, you could say that some of this might just be that Zach Wilson has been in games a little bit longer now and that he's seeing things a little faster. So that's resulting in the ball coming out quicker. Maybe he's a little bit more willing to take some check down since the 1.7 to negative, the negative 1.7 to negative 2.2, the air yards to the sticks. All those things can be said, but we can definitely see a pattern here. We're hoping he holds the ball over 2.6 seconds versus us because that's going to give our defensive line an opportunity. Anything over 2.6 seconds, in my opinion, you're getting an opportunity in the NFL to get home with pressure, okay? We know that he will take chances with the football, all right? He will definitely go out there and try to throw the ball in some pretty tight windows, all right? We can see that in his aggression rating. It did come down. To his credit, he did come down. Like, he went from 17 to like 15%. So, I mean, there was a general trend downward in that category. And we know the air yards to the stick shows us that he's not necessarily pushing the ball downfield. And I'm going to add to that not pushing the ball downfield because I think it's important to know this. Passes above 20-plus yards, guys. You can go to PFF if you want to see this. On the season, he has 12 attempts, which tells me about 2 attempts per game is basically what he's averaging, right? A little over 2 attempts. He's 5 of 12 for 41.7%. I will say when you're throwing the ball over 21 yards, it's really difficult to have above a 50% completion rate. It's not very common. 148 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, but he did have 4 big-time throws against 1 turnover-worthy pass, but he's a 53.5% rating. He's ranked pretty low. He's down there pretty low on the list. He does not take a lot of chances above 20 yards, to be quite honest. Some of that probably has to do with protection. Some of that has to do with the fact that they just, in my opinion, they have a really good player in Garrett Wilson, but they just do not get him down the field often enough. They do not take advantage of what that young man can do enough, in my opinion. With that said, just to give you some a reference point here of where we stand, Jalen's 9 of 23 for 39.1% on passes above 20 yards, 388 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 9 big-time throws to 5 turnover-worthy passes, 86.8% rating. I will say defenses are being stingy this year about giving up big plays. We are seeing a lot more 7 and 8 man coverages. We can attest to that in Philly. We've seen a lot of 7, 8 man coverages to where they're keeping too high. Whether it's in a quarters base or whether they're going cover 2, doesn't matter. They are keeping too high over the top of things this season. A lot of teams are definitely focusing in on that. And when you go look at the underlying data, you see a lot of big name quarterbacks are not playing very well above 20 yards, guys. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is 8 of 26 for a 30.8% completion rate, 321 yards, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 8 big time throws, 3 turnover-worthy passes. He's got a 39.6 passer rating. That's Ryan Tannehill, right? Let's look at Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, just like Jalen Hurts, is 9 of 23 for a 39.1% completion rate, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy passes, and he's got an 83.2 passer rating, right? Josh Allen is 11 of 22, which is a 50% completion rate, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 7 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy passes, and a 95.8% NFL passer rating. Pat Mahomes, 8 of 22 for 36.4% completion rate, 278 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 5 big-time throws, 6 turnover-worthy passes, and a 44.9% NFL passer rating. Kurt Kirk Cousins, 10 of 21, 47.6% completion rate, 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy pass, and 113.6% passer rating. My guy Matt Stafford, who we just played, right? 9 of 21, 42.9% completion rate, 293 in the yardage, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 10 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy pass, 105.8 completion rate, and who I think has actually been the very best this season on those plays above 20 yards. Justin Fields is 13 of 26, which is 50%. 332 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 7 big-time throws to no turnover-worthy passes, and 135.4 passer rating. And just to show you how complex this is, Tua got a lot of speed on that field, man. 9 of 18 for 50%, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 6 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy passes, 95.8% completion rating. Guys, you can see that, if you're a young quarterback and they don't know what to make of you, I think Justin Fields is taking advantage of some people because they don't know that young man has a very talented arm. He can spin it, right? So I think he's getting the advantage that like Jalen Hurts got last year, to where teams just don't realize you better keep coverage over top of him. And now he's got a big playmaker there, right? And he's got Mooney as well. They're still very dysfunctional offensively. So don't think that just because you're hitting big plays that makes your offense great. But we can see a lot of teams, even though there are mistakes happening, the Chiefs aren't taking the big play out of their book, right? The Buffalo Bills have made a lot of mistakes on the season. They're not taking this out of their playbook. The Philadelphia Eagles have made mistakes on the season going vertically. They're not taking that out of their playbook. There's a lot of teams, you know what I'm saying, but they're not taking that crap out of their playbook, man. Like that's, that tells me a little bit about Zach Wilson, man. There's a little bit of mistrust here. I'm not going to lie. There's some mistrust when it comes to Zach Wilson. I want to get into third down, guys. What has Zach Wilson done on third down? And then I want to compare Zach Wilson's numbers on third down. And I'm going to give you a perspective of the other quarterbacks we faced, the 5 other quarterbacks we faced on the season. And I'm going to give you where some of the bigger names inside of the NFL stand on third down. So you guys get a much broader picture to evaluate this guy. So that way you can see multiple angles of this thing. Third down, Zach Wilson. He's 27 of 44 for a 61.4% completion rate. 280 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6.4 yards per attempt. Keep that in mind. 7 sacks, a 77.8 rating. You can get home on Zach Wilson. 7 sacks is a heck of a lot. I'm not going to lie. 6.4 yards per attempt. Keep in mind, yards per attempt have to be judged in accordance to yards to go. Average yards to go on passing downs on third down for the Jets offense has been 8.3 yards. So when you take that 8.3 average yards to go on passing downs minus that 6.4 average yards per attempt, negative 1.9. That's not Alex. Alex is a little bit more complex in the formula than that, but it's close. You get the basis of that. Negative 1.9 it's pretty reserved. It's not the lowest. And we've certainly played Mac Jones this year. So getting into the 5 quarterbacks we've played already and their third down performances. Mac Jones week 1, right? On the season, Mac Jones is 25 of 52 for 48.1% completion rate. You give Zach Wilson credit, man. He's completing the ball a heck of a lot more than Mac is. 306 yards. Mac got some yardage here, man. 0 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, though. That's really not good. 5.9 yards per attempt. 1 sack. 50.6 passer rating. That's a really low passer rating. And to be fair, 1 sack, though, Mac Jones is getting the ball out of his hands before he gets sacked. So probably leads to 2 interceptions, to be honest, too. All right, let's take a look at that 5.9 yards per attempt and judge that by the average yards to go on third down passing situations for that offense. On average, they have 7.8 yards to go. You take that 7.8, you minus the 5.9, it's a negative 1.9% differential there. Same as Zach Wilson, right? All right, week 2, Kirk Cousins. You guys already know, without me telling you, Kirk Cousins pushes the ball down the field. We know that about Kirk Cousins. But let's get into the raw data here. 26 of 48 for 54.2% completion rate, 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 7.1 yards per attempt marker, 4 sacks, 89.1 rating. His average yards to go on passing situations on third down, 6.4. We take that 6.4 on the average yards to go, combined with the 7.1 yards per attempt, and you get a positive result of 0.7. So he's throwing above the sticks on average. Kirk Cousins is. Baker's surprising, bro. When I saw Baker's numbers on third down, I was a little shocked. I didn't know that Baker and that Tampa Bay offense had been playing like this because we didn't see it. Baker was 31 of 39, 79.5% completion rate. That's hecka high. That's a lot of that's a lot of completions on third down. 322 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Baker Mayfield on third down. That just speaks to the talent that Tampa Bay team has as receiving options, clearly. 8.3 yards per attempt. That's a big number, 8.3 yards per attempt is. 2 sacks, 140.7 rating on third down, man, on passing situations. Average yards to go. Offensively, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on average have 7.1 to go. Baker's completing at 8 point, or not completing, but Baker is throwing at 8.3. And that's a big distinction, guys. Yards per attempt does not mean completions. It means on your attempts, the average distance, right? So 7.1, the 8.3 is a positive 1.2, plus 1.2. Baker's pushing it past the sticks. Kirk is pushing it past the sticks. Mac, not pushing it past the sticks. Zach Wilson, not pushing it past the sticks. Matt Stafford. All right, Stafford, 29 of 46 on third down, guys. 63%, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 6.5 yards per attempt. That's literally 0.1% more than Zach Wilson and 0.5% more than Mac Jones. But keep in mind, your offense matters. The average yards to go matters in this conversation. All right, 5 sacks. Matthew Stafford, we showed you can get to Matthew Stafford on third down. 101.7 rating. Still a very highly rated passer on third down. His average yards to go is 6.9. You compare that to Mac Jones, who had a 7.8 average yards to go, and then Zach Wilson had an 8.3 average yards to go. And you can see why a guy that's not statistically higher, he's not that much different, especially when you're comparing Zach Wilson to him in terms of the average yards per attempt. You can see why the numbers are going to tell you a different story, because you're going to take that 6.9, you're going to take that 6.5, and you get a negative 0.4. So he's throwing below the sticks on average, but it's not a crazy off. Like, that's within the range of the averages for the NFL, to be honest. And he went between that -5 to plus 0.5. That's going to be the area where most quarterbacks fall into. Jalen Hurts. So we covered Mac, Kirk, Baker, and Matthew Stafford. We're going to talk about Jalen Hurts real quick. Jalen is 23 of 34 for 67.6% completion rate, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 8.5 yards per attempt. We know this offense is vertical. 3 sacks and 111 rating. And this is a cautionary tale, right? Not everybody who's pushing the ball downfield should be like, yeah, we got one, right? There's a case to be made sometimes to take your check down. There are some times where I get frustrated with our offense because I don't think we build enough inverse pressure at times. And I don't think we always take the check down like we should at times. But it's a vertical offense. We all know that. Average yards to go for Jalen Hurts on third down, speaking to whether you're keeping ahead of the sticks or not, 7.2. Matthew Stafford only had 6.9 average yards to go, right? Baker Mayfield, right around the same thing as Jalen Hurts, 7.1. Kirk Cousins, 6.4. They stay ahead of the sticks a lot better. Average yards to go for Mac Jones, 7.8. Not very good at staying ahead of the sticks. And then Zach Wilson, average yards to go, 8.3. Really not staying ahead of the sticks. That's terrible. That offense is putting them in predicaments on third down when you're that high up there. All right, 7.2 and 8.5 comes to a positive 1.3. Out of everyone we talked about, Jalen Hurts so far has that highest number, followed by Baker Mayfield right behind him. Jalen 1.3, Baker 1.2. All right, let's keep talking, guys. Let's talk about Dak. I'm joking. But we are going to talk about Dak's numbers on third down. Dak, 31 of 43, 72.1% completion rate. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that offense. We know there's a lot of stuff being thrown in front. But on third down, keep in mind, third down's different from everything else. He's 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7.9 yards per attempt. That's a lot higher than yards per attempt than I thought that I would see from Dak, to be honest. Now, mind you, when you're talking about yards per attempt, the one thing you have to account for is you're running off of averages. So, if you had 3 passes of 5 yards and then 1 pass of 50 yards, that's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? It's going to impact the average. So I do want to say, keep some of these nuanced points in mind, guys. You know what I mean? 4 sacks on third down, 100.8 rating. His average yards to go is 6.5 yards. Credit to that offense in terms of keeping it within reasonable distances on third down on average, right? 6.5 yards. 6.5 minus the 7.9 is a plus it's a positive 1.4 yard marker for that particular like rating on third down. So we can see Dak 1.4, Jalen 1.3, Baker 1.2. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is 21 of 36 for 58.3% completion rate. 304 yards. Okay, let's see. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for Brock Purdy. 8.4 yards per attempt. So Brock and that 49ers offense will push it on third down. 2 sacks, 104.4 rating. His average yards to go is about 6.9. Right around what we see from the Eagles offense, right? I think the Eagles were like 7.1, 7.2. So, yeah, the Eagles were 7.2. The Bucks were 7.1. They're 6.9. 6.9 minus 8.4 is 1.5. So, plus 1.5. So, plus 1.5 for Brock Purdy, plus 1.4 for Dak Prescott, plus 1.3 for Jalen Hurts, plus 1.2 for Baker Mayfield. All right. Now, I'll give you the crazy number. Let's get this crazy number on third down, guys. Third down league-wide. Pat Mahomes. He has not played particularly well above 20 yards, right? But I do want to show you this. It's important to still challenge. Still important to challenge and open things up for your offense. He's 39 of 59, which is 66.1% completion rate on third down. It's actually a really good completion rate, especially given 59 attempts. It's a lot of attempts on third down. 540 yards. It's Pat. You know what I'm saying? 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. 9.2 yards per attempt for Pat, bro. That like Andy just be like, okay, let's forget checkdowns. Just go vertical. That offense is definitely predicated on that. 1 sack. Pat's hard to get down to the ground. We all know that. 115.1 rating on third down, right? His average yards to go is 6.5. So they do a good job keeping ahead of the sticks, and they're trying to punish you on third down. 9.2 and 6.5 gives you that plus 2.7 marker. Pat Mahomes plus 2.7. Brock Purdy plus 1.5. Dak Prescott plus 1.4. Jalen Hurts plus 1.3. Baker Mayfield plus 1.2. You guys you get where I'm going with this, right? All right, let me give you a really bad example, but it's a really good quarterback, just to show you different things. Different things for different quarterbacks, right? Joe Burrow, 35 of 54, 64.8% completion rate, decent completion rate on third down, almost 65%. 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not a bad ratio of touchdown interceptions. 4.5 yards per attempt. I didn't think that from Joe Burrow. That's really low. 4.5 yards per attempt is really low for Joe Burrow. 5 sacks, an 85.6 QB rating. His average yards to go, though, is 6.8 yards. 6.8 with the 4.5 on the average yards per attempt. Passing attempt is a negative 2.3. Literally, Joe Burrow, when you work out these ratios, is checking the ball down more on third down at negative 2.3 than what we've seen from players such as Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Just kind of speaks to the craziness that's going on there with their offense, right? Another big name guy to bring some balance to this conversation, so now everything's not all positive, if you will. Josh Allen. Josh Allen is 26 of 42, 61.9%, 62% completion rate. 246 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions on third down. Josh Allen has not been good on third down. He has not been good above 20 yards either. 5.9 yards per attempt. A little shock there. I thought Josh Allen and that offense would be pushing more vertical than that. They're not. 1 sack, hard to get Josh Allen on the ground, just physically speaking, because how big that dude is. He's got a 46.4 passer rating on third down. Let me repeat that again. Josh Allen has a 46.4 passer rating on third down. That's rough. Average yards to go for that offense is 6.7 yards. 6.7 minus the 5.9, we get a negative 0.7. Okay, negative 0.7. Not as bad as what we see from Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Not as bad as we see from Joe Burrow. But, I mean, it's in that realm of what we see from guys like Matthew Stafford, who's got like a negative 0.4. It's in and around the sticks. It's still a little low, to be honest. But it is what it is, right? All right, we'll get into Tua. Tua is 21 of 36, 58.3% completion rate on third down, 293 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 8.1 yards per attempt. They get vertical, just like Jalen does, just like Pat does, just like Brock does, just like Dak does. They get vertical on third down. No doubt about that, Miami offense. 1 sack, an 86.9 passer rating. His average yards to go, though, is 7.3, so it's actually worse than the Eagles at 7.3, which takes the 7.3 with the 8.1. You get a positive 0.8, plus 0.8 percentage. So he is throwing above the sticks markers on third down. Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, everyone's favorite from around the league. 19 of 32, 59.4% completion rate. A little low for Justin Herbert, I'm not going to lie. 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 7.6 yards per attempt. There's a vertical element to that offense at that distance. 5 sacks. You can get to Justin Herbert on third down. 5 sacks is a lot. Probably because that offensive line it's probably not playing that well. 91 rating, okay? Average yards to go is 7.5. You take the 7.6 average yards per attempt and 7.5 yards that's on average to go, and you get a +1. So positive 0.1, I should say, not +1, but 0.1, plus 0.1. So right at the sticks. He's throwing right at the sticks. All right. That's that broad picture of what we're seeing on third down. So Zach Wilson, if I had to take a guess, we're seeing his numbers come down on third down in terms of the time to throw, right? We see, he's gone from 3.05 overall in the course of the season to last week. He was at like 2.76. So he's getting the ball out faster. They're still throwing short of the sticks. Negative 1.7 or 1 on third down, right? And then if you take air yards to the sticks, so across all downs, negative 1.7. So last week it was 2.2, negative 2.2. I'm curious how this plays out on third down. And I'll tell you why. I thought we were better at third down than what we are in terms of the pass rush. Now, mind you, this is not always just because we're bad at the pass rush. Sometimes this crap has to do with the fact that teams are not going to give you an opportunity to get a pass rush home. They're going to get the ball out way before you can. And I do think that needs to be looked into our opponents on third down, the average time to throw before we judge whether or not we're just really ineffective, if you will. However, Eagles on third down have only managed to come up with 3 sacks, okay? There was the 2 design things that Desai did with Nicholas Morrow a couple of weeks ago where he got a couple sacks on third down, and then Hassan Riddick last week got a sack on third down. I do think getting Hassan Riddick back is going to help out that number on third down because I think that's Hassan. He can really take a game over on you, right? The Eagles' third down defense is allowed 44.6% first down conversion rates, which ranks 27th. That's not good, man. 25 of 56. 56 plays and 25 of those have gone for first down. It's really not a good percentage. But to be fair, we know this system, guys. You don't need me to tell you. We will give up yardage. We will allow you to pick up those first downs until you get into a certain point of the field, and then we're supposed to tighten up. Here's the problem, though. When we look at the Eagles' red zone defense, 36.4% first down rate, which is 27th. We don't really care about first downs necessarily in the red zone. We care about keeping you out of the end zone. But the problem is we've given up 12 touchdowns in the red zone, which is the 5th highest, but only given up 2 field goals, which is the 4th lowest. I would say that I would rather be 31st or 32nd in the field goals given up and top 5 in the touchdowns not allowed. Like, we need to flip that number, bro. I mean, that's just a little lesson, a little self-scouting on ourselves here. We need to flip that red zone number. We're giving up entirely too many touchdowns in the red zone. You can't bend but don't break if you're allowing touchdowns. That's just breaking. That's not bending and not breaking. That's breaking. It's straight snapping. Like, that's not good. I do think that we've had challenges. There's complexity. There's a lot of complexity around the Eagles, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, like, we don't have some things going on internally with the secondary and dudes coming out missing. Last week we just went through a game. We were down 2 interior defensive linemen. Hassan Reddick hasn't been there on third downs and stuff because of the hand thing. We just kind of got that unleashed. And we've seen the last 2 weeks, he's got 3 sacks after he got that thing removed from his hand. I definitely think there's a reason to be, objectively confident that things are going to get better, right? We're going to get stability in the secondary. You're going to get a lot more from that pass rush as we kind of get into situations that are going to afford us that, right? However, you got a really bad third down defense statistically and a really bad red zone defense statistically against the quarterback that's not really good on third down either. He's really not. I mean, to be fair, he completes the ball at a really high rate, but I wouldn't say that he's having a lot of success. There's a lot of stuff down way beyond the sticks, which brings me to my point. I've been saying all week about Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson plays well in space. On third down, where they're just trying not to get this guy killed by our defensive line, they're going to try to create offense for Garrett Wilson. They're going to try to create offense for people. We've got to stand up to that. We need to rally to the football and tackle and not allow missed tackles to allow conversions or really easy 4th and 1 type pickup situations, 4th and inches type things. To where we're in that situation where we're allowing these extended drives from an offense that honestly can't keep up with us if we just start putting up 30-plus points on them. Now, the Jets offense, their targets on third down, right? I went over their overall targets a couple of days ago, but this is who they target on third down, right? Garrett Wilson has 12 targets on third down for 7 catches, 64 yards, 5 first downs. Tyler Conkin has 9 targets on third down for 7 receptions, 103 yards, and 3 first downs. And then Alan Lazard, 5 targets, 4 catches, 68 yards, 4 first downs, and a touchdown on third down. So Wilson, Conklin, Lazard is kind of the way they're going to stack their receiving targets. And we need to be careful. We need to rally to the football. We need to tackle. They're going to throw the ball short of the sticks, and they're going to try to make a play. You know, we want to put them in a situation to where they're trying to push the ball to the sticks or past the sticks and giving us enough time to get a pass rush on, right? The side's got to be careful about the way we're playing those coverages. We know early on we like to play a little passive. We like to play a little passive too when we build pretty big leads, 2-3 score leads. I think we need to be mindful of these things, right? I think there's a lot of positives on the season. I think a lot of people are just overblown on the coordinators, but there are some areas to critique. There are some areas to critique where we need to be better. All right, y'all, let's get into some comments and let's talk. My guy Masai, what's up, man? How you doing? Good morning, man. Good morning to all y'all. What's up, Easy? How you doing, man? Any updates on Carter's ankle? No, we should find out something here shortly when practice kicks off. It should be starting soon if it hasn't already. So we'll know something within the next couple hours. We'll definitely be hearing something. Mista said, I thought Rodgers would help Zach Wilson upgrade his performance while Aaron is on IR, but I haven't seen an improvement in play. Neither have I, honestly, Mista. I think some of it is the coaching staff. I just don't think they have a lot of confidence in him, and I think they're going overboard. And I think when they relaxed it a little bit last week, he actually played decently. He wasn't terrible. He's still a little bit of a check down Charlie, but he wasn't terrible like he had been in other games. He was terrible in that Dallas game, Mr. Sandman. Like, that crap was ridiculously bad. Mr. Sandman says CJ Stroud has put up good numbers. I don't know if it's because he's playing against a lot of prevent defenses because Texans are playing from behind. Yeah, that's always tough to tell there, but I did notice his numbers kind of popping out too. He's definitely played pretty well in the season. But yeah, as you said, like the context of where the production's coming, the type of defenses that are being run, it's kind of hard to know that. Linda, what's up? Linda said, we as fans have a tendency to criticize the coordinators for the Eagles' stalled way of plays over the past 5 games. Do you see their willingness to adjust as the factor for winning? Yeah, partially. I mean, I think these guys, there's definitely a little bit of a learning on the job thing going on here, Linda. There's no doubt about that part of it. But I do think that you don't get to 5-0 if your coordinators are just terrible. Like, I think there's some areas where we took some lumps because they were learning, and there are some things I just didn't agree with them on. But I don't think they're bad. I think some people are definitely going overboard. But there's areas to improve. I'm not going to lie. Like, when I look at the numbers from a statistics, analytics, studying the film on it, there's definitely some areas to improve, like on third down in the red zone, some situational football stuff that needs to be better. Some Black Ninja said, I'm here, Gates. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Says, sorry I'm late. The GOAT in the building, Gate City. Hey, man, I still appreciate it, man. Is Purdy another 49ers product? Probably easy, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's not playing well. He's playing pretty dang good, to be fair. I'm not going to throw shade at Brock Purdy. He's playing pretty good. But you know what? They got to have their protection match their route development, or he's going to be laying on the ground again. Hit them likes, boys. Hey, I appreciate it, Odizzle Drizzle. Scott said there has been quite a few missed turnover opportunities that might contribute to the stats. Yeah, I talked about that yesterday to where on the opening drive for the Rams, there was definitely a play to where if Justin Evans plays the football instead of the receiver, I'm not, you can't say 100% certainty he's going to pick that ball, but man, the opportunity was there. There's an opportunity to prevent points there and turn that over. Mr. Salmon said that red zone rating makes me wonder why Morrow and Cunningham are so-called rated so high. Red zone defense is where the linebackers are supposed to eat. Yeah, I mean, we've had some ups and downs, man. We definitely had some ups and downs. I think they're playing above expectation. I do think they're playing above expectation, but let's be real. The reason they're getting the ratings they're getting is it's about the interior defensive line. The interior defensive line is just that good. Odizzle Drizzle said Gannon's defense is 5th or 6th worst on points allowed through 5 games. Not everybody can see it was the players that made him, not his scheme. I got Michael say amen. Appreciate it, man. Easy said, how successful have the double mug blitzes been? Last game, there was some opportunities for the Rams, which they missed. Seems high risk, high reward. It's definitely high risk, high reward because you're taking away from coverage. You know what I'm saying? Easy. You're like, simply put, if you're running double mug, like And it really depends upon when you say mug, when you're doing mug, there's 6, there's 7, there's even 8-man mug. So I mean, how many people are you leaving back there? Are you leaving 3, 4, 5 in coverage? You know what I mean? Most people are running 6-man mug and 5 in coverage, but yeah, I mean, you're going to create voids and spaces in your defense that can be beat if the quarterback has enough time to see it. It's definitely about route development and protection lining up. And that's, I see it all the time. People are like, oh, we could have been had here. And it's like, could have been. But bottom line is that the protection has got to line up with the route development. If it doesn't, it's a positive for the defense. Now, sometimes I do think there are times where protection has held. The quarterback got sped up, and when they got sped up, they got uncomfortable, and they just made a really stupid play. Hey, I mean, hand in hand, easy. You know how it goes, man. Hand in hand. Green Wingman said, rate from 1 to 10, Zach Wilson will be able to take advantage of the Eagles secondary. I say a 3. I mean, the reason I'll say 3 is Zach Wilson did cook against us back in 2021. Now, different secondary. With that said, I don't think our secondary has been that great because it's been injured. I do have some hope, though, that with Sidney Brown coming back and being into the lineup, if I'm hoping that Justin Evans can, at least be healthy enough to, if he can't, you don't have to start the guy, but can he play 10, 12 snaps? You can start Sidney Brown and use, Justin Evans while he's injured as kind of like that buffer, so we only need him for a few snaps and kind of give him a little bit more time to heal up. But it just depends upon the nature of that knee. Like, he's got an extensive injury history. He missed 3 years of football pretty much. So, I mean, that's a tough one, man. Like, that's a tough one, Green Wing, man. But I think that they like to throw the ball short of the sticks. I think that they like to try to get the ball out. They want to get the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands, but I think that he's susceptible to them playing around with the coverage. I think you can fool Zach Wilson's eyes. So I'm really curious to see what the side does to try to fool him. Ray said, what do you see as a potential strategy with Jalen Carter out? I don't know. Is he out yet? I haven't had a chance to look, Ray. I know that he had a thing popped up on the ankle, but I mean, I still thought he had a chance today to come back and actually get approved to play for the Sunday's game. So I don't know if he's out yet or not. I haven't seen it, to be honest, yet. But if he is out, Ray, I think you do what you've been doing, man. I mean, like, look, your interior pass rush, you're not going to make up for Jalen Carter being out. But Milton Williams is still a dog. Fletch can still get there. Kentavious Street, his run defense is my problem with Kentavious Street. I mean, dude's athletic as crap. If he can get a pass rush home, right? You'll probably play Moro Jamo for a couple snaps again. He'll probably get his second, active status and game time. You know what I mean? You'll get Tui Pelotu back, so you'll get some element of run defense with Jordan Davis there. You'll have something where you can rotate a little bit there. So, I mean, you will see how they handle it, man. It's hard to say. G Dragon said, do you think San Francisco's level of play is sustainable? I think Cleveland's a pretty good test, man. I think if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, they call it a big-time break. Because I think Cleveland coming off of a bye now and having extra time to prep for you, you just had that emotional win over Dallas. Man, Cleveland can get a pass rush home, man. Jim Schwartz, man, that Cleveland pass rush is pretty dang good. Like, that's one where if they had even competent offense, that game could get real interesting. But, I mean, look, San Francisco, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, G-Dragon, that's not a good team. That's a really good football team. Like, we're going to be in a dogfight come playoffs with them. We're going to be in a dogfight come December 3rd with them. James said, good morning, Coach. What would you give for Justin Simmons? I think it's going to depend upon what they're willing to pay in terms of the contract, James. I mean, in terms of the player, I'd give a first-round pick if it was just a player and we weren't worrying about salary cap because the dude's that good. Now, I think the question you got to ask yourself is doesn't matter what I would give for it. I mean, we have to judge it from the perspective of what the front office will give for the position. Would they give something like a day 1 pick or even a high day 2 pick, like a second rounder? I don't know. I mean, we do have multiple second round picks this upcoming draft. Would Denver accept that for Justin Simmons? Would the Eagles actually work to, figure out the contract with Justin Simmons? Because I think he did sign an extension somewhat recently, but I don't know how that would work when he gets traded to the Eagles, because obviously Denver would be on the hook for any guaranteed money they gave him in terms of signing bonus stuff and things like that. Now, there are other parts of the guaranteed money to where it would, if they have escalators in the contract, the Eagles are responsible for that. But yeah, I mean, we'd have to see how the contract structure works. I don't have it in front of me, James, so I can't really judge it. Would those blitzes against all these big teams except Mahomes. Just getting baby Rhino those one-on-ones is a win for us. Yeah, setting up the protection, especially I like it when they bring the backers up into the A gap and then they fall out because then you've already committed to your protection scheme, and then now you're allowed. You know what I'm saying? You're allowing those one-on-ones without having to sacrifice and bring 5, 6, 7 guys. Scott said, "How much influence do you think Patricia had on the adjustments made last week versus the Rams?" I mean, he had influence, but it's not Patricia, guys. That's it's not Patricia, man. That's the Sai. Like, I mean, he has input because they come up with game plans. You know what I'm saying? They come up with scheme. They come up install for the scheme. Then you come up with your individual game plans, and then you have your situational meeting stuff on Saturdays to where you work out situational drills. I mean, yeah, of course, like Patricia has input. He's one of many people that gets input into it, but it's the Sai, guys. Easy said Watson is out. 49ers are so lucky. Yeah, that's a lucky break if Watson's out because that team's better than what their record would indicate. Cleveland is. I think that, you know, losing a playmaker at running back the way they did and the way that they function and run their offense, and then having their starting quarterback down and having a young guy in there, a rookie in there, I think it's definitely a benefit for them. Like they're getting really lucky there. But I'm curious to see if Stefanski and them boys can't make it interesting because that defense can cook. Cleveland's defense can absolutely play. Like they got a really, really good pass rush. I'm curious if we don't see, something we haven't seen recently in terms of like San Francisco really having to play hard, having to really fight their way out of a situation. Because, that's the one thing that we kept getting dealt with you remember last year? Oh, we haven't been tested. We haven't been tested. We haven't been tested. We haven't been tested. We ended up being tested a couple times before the season ended, but that was the big thing when we were on the roll like San Francisco is where we were just clobbering teams. Never mind the fact that we were tested week 1 in Detroit. People overlooked that because they thought Detroit was bad. But yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter how good or bad the team is. Being tested is being tested. It's a week-to-week league. You know what I'm saying? Easy. Like, James said, Coach, your thoughts on Brandon, man? Subpar. He's doing the job. I don't think he's great. I think the coverage is great. I also think, I'll give the young man some time. He's coming off cold. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. I mean, give him a few more weeks, see how it works out. See, it's not any worse than we would have had with Sippos, I don't think, but I don't think it's that drastically better either. I think the big thing for him, James, will be don't make the critical mistake. Sippos wasn't bad last year from the majority of the year. Then he comes back from that injury in the Super Bowl and shanks a punt that, sets up for a huge freaking goal to go situation inside the Super Bowl. That was a pretty big play, man. And I think that play, for whatever reason, does not get discussed that much, man. James, I'm telling you, that was a huge play in the Super Bowl. Like, I think it broke a record for freaking return in the Super Bowl. Like, that was a huge play. So if Brandon Mann doesn't make that kind of critical error, then it's going to be an upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's going to be one of these dudes that's just booming 50-some yard kicks. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, maybe he has it in him, but I haven't seen that yet. But I think the average is, I want to say average is what, between like 46 and 47 guys, something like that. That's what they border on normally for punters. So as long as he's sticking around those numbers, around the 47-yard mark, is what it is. And then if you got an offense like the Eagles where they drive the ball and then you're just punting for field position, then you're looking for, okay, like maybe his average won't indicate things, but what are you looking at in terms of inside the 20? Then you want to judge it by inside the 20. Like sometimes opportunity could mess up the averages, but that should be reflected by inside the 20 punts. Daryl said, Niners defensive back, mostly handsy NFL. My reaction to call on Bradbury and the Bull was, have these guys worked San Fran games? Yeah. It is what it is, man. Blame Sirianni for not going on 4th and 1. He trusted Gannon. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of blame on it, Easy. There's a lot of blame on it. I do think that Sirianni doesn't walk away scot-free from that because you could have gone, if you'd have got stopped on 4th and 1, I think we all would have been mad about it. But at the same time, we would have understood that we've been unstoppable in those short down situations, right? Those short distances, I should say. We've been unstoppable in 3rd and 4th down. I would have probably gone for it too, especially knowing that, yes, your defense has had moments in the game where they for like 3 or 4 straight possessions, they did shut down Pat. But at the end of the day, bro, that's still Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and freaking Pat Mahomes over there. Like, the path of least resistance. If you can convert there, run more clock, and add to the scoreboard, like, I don't know, Easy. I guess it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do us any good to revisit that, but I have thoughts about it, sir. I have thoughts about it like everybody else does. And look, I love our coaching staff, man. I think our coaching staff is quite good this year. I like what we have here. I know it's young. I know that our coordinators are still going and working through some stuff, but I do think that we've got some guys in place. And I'm glad that Nick stuck up for a special teams coach in Clay, and Clay's rewarding him, right? I mean, to be fair to Clay, Clay was handed a pretty raw deal this year. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of guys that should have been very important for this special teams, core team that were really good in previous years that went down with injury before the season started. And he's still doing pretty good. Like, I think he's definitely been one of the really positive stories. And that was Sirianni sticking up for him. But yeah, in that particular instance, EZ, I tend to agree with you. What's up, Gate? We signed that linebacker from Penn State. And what's up with Carter's injury? Just heard it was an ankle injury. I don't know the severity of it or anything. It kind of caught me off guard. I didn't realize that was even a thing until later yesterday. We should know something about his game status today. Let's hope, man. Let's hope, because I hope I hope he'll be in the game, even if we got to work him in limited reps. The lack of hot routes also killed us in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's one encouraging thing I've seen over the last couple of weeks, Easy, is that it looks like Brian Johnson has actually built in hot routes to the offense, because that was a big headache I kept screaming that for the majority of last year, that, man, what is going on third down with this team? Because, like, we just do not encompass hot routes at all. But yeah, it is what it is, guys. All right, y'all, I'm about to jump off here, but before I do, just a couple of notes real fast. Next week, when we start up on Monday at 9:30, I will actually, after I do my little intro thing, to where, I bring out the discussion for the day and I go over some important stats, I will actually post the StreamYard link in case any of you guys want to come in starting next week and then work as a co-host. We can do it to where we do 10-minute segments with people that want to jump in, or if only one person wants to jump in, they can just be the co-host for the duration of the time. But yeah, it is, man. It is. When will the Eagles release Penny? I don't think they are, Daryl. I think they see him as kind of I think the only way they release him is they think they can get him on the practice squad. You know what I mean, Daryl? If they think they can get him on the practice squad and keep him in that veteran kind of break in case emergency role, then they would. But I think they got to feel that that's a possibility first. Coach, why the Eagles didn't bring in the punt guide who got in trouble? There must be more to the story than we know. Something I can think of, James. There must be something behind the scenes that we don't know. I don't know what it is. I wasn't there, to be fair, but yeah, man. Robert Saleh comes from that Seahawks Legion of Boom coaching tree. They like to play a lot of cover 3. He also comes out of San Francisco's coaching tree, too. Daryl Mayfield said, release versus NFL. Likes are free. Appreciate you guys. Monday should be more active. I think everyone already asked their questions for this week. Yeah, probably. Probably, sir. But yeah, we'll start doing that next week, guys. We'll start bringing you guys in. I appreciate y'all so much, man. I will see y'all Monday. I'll try to release something this weekend for you guys. We'll do something so there's some kind of video. And then, of course, we have the Battle Birds podcast on Sunday for the pregame. Philly Mike from the Philly Talk podcast. Reese from Philly Fresh. And then myself, guys. We'll see. I don't know if LB is going to be there this week or not, but we'll find out, man. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you guys on the next. I'll see you guys on Monday. All right, y'all. Peace. Or at Battle Birds podcast.